This is Isa Q. Tan. Welcome to Asian Agribiz Podcast. Today, Arif Faharuddin is speaking to Erika Kusuma Wardani, Clariant's Regional Manager in Asia Pacific for feed business, to explore why not all clay-based mycotoxin binders are the same, and what are the key parameters to determine the quality of a clay-based mycotoxin binder.
Hello, Erika.
Hello, Arif.
Yeah, today we will be talking about clay-based mycotoxin binder. We have published a lot of news about mycotoxin cases in the region in different species also on our website. And we have published a podcast on this. And we think it is important to know deeper about the binders. And you are an expert on this. First of all, I'm curious with the statement saying that not all clays are the same. Could you explain what makes them different?
There is a lot of perception in the market and in the people that all clay are the same, but actually it is a very simple one. Clay are a lot of types, maybe thousands. We don't know yet. Because, like, for example, if you have kids, then they're doing a clay-based activities like make a mug or a plate. That's also clay. But in the industry, there are a lot of things using clay in the industries. For example, you want to know whether the clays that used as a toxin binder are the same or not. The answer keep the same. That we say no. That's not all toxin binder, clay-based toxin binder are the same. No. Even though it is the same bentonite used, it will be a big difference. Why? Because you know that actually bentonite was produced from the mountain, active mountain, volcano, and then blow up, brought to the river until far away, and then come into the earth, and then 1,000 years later we come and dig that, bring up the bentonite. Actually, bentonite in the market has two types, big types. I mean, a lot of types of bentonite, but big types that use in the market as toxin binder. We have sodium bentonite and calcium bentonite. Both are not the same. It's a big difference. Sodium bentonite usually is a bentonite that activated using acid that's used to make the layer between the molecule become bigger. Then it will absorb anything inside. Usually we use this sodium bentonite for purification industries because it can absorb anything like color, smell, impurities, including your nutrient when you use it as toxin binder in the feed. That's the danger one. So don't use sodium bentonite for feed toxin binder because your amino acid, vitamin, and mineral can be absorbed easily. So you should compensate. But if you use calcium bentonite, usually the good one, calcium bentonite, it will be specific only by like toxin. But you should choose the high quality calcium bentonite because calcium bentonite also has a big range from the cheap, very cheap one until the expensive one. That's depend on the quality.
I see. Could you elaborate more about the mining, where they are mined, the way they are mined, and also the production process? Because I guess these three factors can also differentiate one clay-based mycotoxin binder to the others.
So I will talk about Clariant because Clariant has 39 mines, the big mines in the world that we elaborate that mines. For example, right now we have a product called Toxisop that mines in Spain for Toxisop Premium, but that's not bentonite. That's clay, but not bentonite. That's kerolite and saponite. that we found in the earth together as a binding mineral, something like that. So that's different. And the other toxisop, which is called toxisop classic, is mined in Bavaria, Germany now. That's calcium bentonite. The process of mine is always open mine for this clay. We never use cave or something like that, always open mine. And then after the mining, we took the bentonite, we should put back all the sand, soil, and anything, so this land can be planted again. That's the rule. And how about the process? This bentonite we brought to the factory, drying, crushing, took all the impurities, grinding, and then we use a lot of process to make it a very small particle. Usually we use 63 micron. 40 microns is depend on the industries they needs. So this process needs a very careful process and really monitor, so the product will be homogeneous, and then it will use in its industry match with their specification. That's the process. So for example, if you need activation, for example, in civil engineering industry, then we will use alkaline activation. The objective of alkaline activation is to make the molecule grow so it can swell. Because in civil engineering, usually you inject the crack in the bridge, for example, or building using bentonite, then it will swell and will be a sealant. But it cannot use in the feed, because you can imagine it swell in the stomach of the animal, it will be a problem. So we will not use it in the feed. And the other activation, for example, like acid activation, we use it in purification for oil, from CPO to be cooking oil. That will absorb anything like impurities, smell, color, and anything. We also don't use this activation in the toxin binder for feed. So what we use a natural one, that's very safe one, and very specific one. That's used for toxin binder in the feed.
So we know that a lot of clay-based mycotoxin binders in the market at the moment. And the question is, what are the key parameters to determine the quality of a clay-based mycotoxin binder? And why are these parameters important?
Yeah, actually in Clariant, we developed our method which is called binding efficiency. That's to check the parameter, how effective is the clay as a toxin binder. Binding efficiency means we calculate the first absorption happen between clay or bentonite and whatever with the toxin. For example, for aflatoxin, that's the easiest toxin to be bind. Usually the binding will be more than 80%, but our clay usually 90, 98, 97, something like that. And then after that, when this, because this toxin binder will blend with the feed, then eat by animal, then in the tract, digestive tract, I mean, the pH will be different. For gizzard, for example, and intestine, that will different pH. In gizzard, usually acid. In the intestine, usually become normal or alkaline. Then, when pH change, this first binding can be released. So the toxin will release again and can be harmful for the animal. So we will calculate like this. The first absorption minus the desorption, which is the release one, and become a binding efficiency. So we never said that our clay is effective 90% for zearalenone, for example, because zearalenone is non-polar mycotoxin, which is not easy to be bind. Because we know that after 97% the first absorption in zearalenone, there will be a desorption, for example, 20%. So we have 70%. So we will mention it to the customer that our binding efficiency is 70%. We never mention 90%. That's the parameter. The first for efficacy. The second for safety, we should see the CEC or cation exchange capacity, because this is this CEC usually used in the soil, in the agriculture industries, to check whether this clay or the soil will absorb all nutrients better or not. So if our CEC more than 60, usually it will absorb anything including nutrient. So we will choose the clay that the CEC is below 60. There's two parameters is very important. And the other one that usually used is surface area. Because this clay will work in the surface area, not in the core of the molecule. So the bigger surface area will be the better. Usually like that, that's the other one is particle size, volume, and anything. That's also the concern. But these three things is the most important.
Interesting. So producers want to buy clay-based mycotoxin binders. They need to ask these three factors to the suppliers, right?
Yes.
Especially the binding efficiency one. You touched a little bit about non-polar group mycotoxins, right, in your previous answer. And since not all mycotoxins are the same, I guess they need specific binders also to bind. Could you elaborate more on this?
Yeah. We know that there are 6 main mycotoxins that's usually harmful for the animals, for livestock industries. There are aflatoxin, zearalenone, T2, ochratoxin, fumonisin, and DON. Aflatoxin and ergotamine usually, but ergotamine is not familiar usually used in the livestock. But this aflatoxin and ergotamine are polar. Polar means they love water and can be bind easily, very easy. And the binding will stay there until become a feces. But the other ones are non-polar mycotoxin, means that in their molecule, they have part that's usually it's not there are a part that usually is non-polar that's make them difficult to be bind, except DON. DON is polar actually, but the molecule is very big. That's make DON not easily to be bind also. But there are some methods that can bind DON. And DON is heat unstable, so it's not a big problem actually. So for these toxins, yes, we need different part of toxin binder that can bind the non-polar part, not only the polar part. So that's why we found some clays has capabilities to bind non-polar mycotoxin, but usually it will release again or desorption. So that's why we have Toxisop Premium that have carolate and saponite, which can bind non-polar mycotoxin, and we test it already. Actually, if you find clay, because under phyllosilicate family, there is a smectite family, and this smectite family has two group, which is deoctahedral smectite and trioctahedral smectite. What is the difference? The difference is deoctahedral means, I make imagination, that's like they have 2 layers of 10, something like that. But trioctahedral smectite, they have 3 layers of hands, means that their binding will be stronger. So that's why when you choose clay under the trioctahedral smectite, usually this clay have capability to bind non-polar mycotoxin. In the market, maybe you can find like, they call it magnesium clay, something like that, but actually not that. Why they call it magnesium clay? Because if you see the composition of this clay, because we call it clay minerals, they have a mineral inside. In the deoctahedral smectite, usually aluminum oxide will be dominant compared to the other components like ferro, magnesium, and blah, blah, blah. But in 3-octahedral peptide, usually magnesium will be the dominant one. Except silicate, of course. Silicate always 50% more. But those two, if it is dominant, usually 21, 20 something like that. And the others is 7, 9, something like that.
I'm also interested to know more about your explanation previously about vitamins and other important nutrients that can be absorbed or bind by the binders. And we know that it is a big worry, for nutritionists if they choose a wrong binder that not only absorb mycotoxins, but also vitamins and minerals and other important nutrients. Could you elaborate more on this? Maybe you can give an example, like what Clariant has done to its products to make sure that the binders from Clariant will not absorb the vitamins, minerals, and other important nutrients.
Yeah, actually, before we marketed products, of course, we test two very important components with efficacy and safety. Nutrients binding, including in the safety components. So after we check the binding efficiency and anything, particle size, blah, 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 then we should also check the safety, whether this clay can absorb the nutrient or not. Usually we will check compared to active carbon and also other products in the market. Then we check, we compare it. We check, for example, like minerals, we check it for ferro, mangan, calcium, kalium, and many things that we check it one by one. And then for amino acid, for example, we check it for methionine, tryptophan, and any things. And then also we check it for vitamin E, vitamin C, vitamin A. Even with colorants, we also check it, whether it absorbs colorant or not, because colorant is very expensive, right? It will not funny if you put toxin binder and then it's absorbed your colorant. You will lose a lot of money.
Yeah, true.
So that's why we check it. So if, for example, you ask me to give the clay as your need, then you ask the test, we can provide.
So did you do some modifications to the binders so that it will not absorb the nutrients?
Actually, frankly speaking, if you talk about the principal modification, no, we didn't do. We only modified, for example, the particle size or the capability to absorb water. Yes, we can modify, but for the main one, the principal one, no, we don't do anything like activation or anything, no, because we keep this clay for animal feed or food. We also support as natural as possible.
Thank you very much, Erika, for your time and explanation.
You're welcome, Arif. I'm glad to be here and share what I know to the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another Asian Agribiz podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this show on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.